Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to do my full review. I don't think I actually did the full review on this, on the Brown Knives, or Craig Brown Knives FSD. You can see here, this is number 8 in 154 cm. This is my personal knife. I've had 2 of them. I sold the other one. I really wanted 20 cb. I got it in, but it had the other milling pattern. Now he has 3, but I had the second milling pattern. I just didn't love that, and then I wasn't going to swap the blade because it would kind of screw up the labeling, and I honestly don't use knives enough to care that much, so I was like, you know what, and I ended up trading that for a Grimsmo Rask, which I still have and love, so it was a good trade for me. Anyway, I don't think I ever did the full review, and I wanted to do it because this is probably the best knife of 2022. I mean, if we want to classify things by production and custom and budget, right, we can kind of work our way through what's come out so far this year. I would say in the budget realm, it's probably going to be this Asher Spiro with Hull. Now, yeah, these I think were like 115 bucks or something, but I think if you used my code or whatever, I think you can get it for like right at 100 bucks. To me, this is still a budget knife, right? 115 titanium S35EN on bearings. Really, really good knife. And then I'd say for production, right now it's the Winter Blade Co. Factor. And that's the only knife that gives me pause in saying this is the best knife of 2022. If the Factor counts as if we're just doing overall best knife, and maybe this will be my struggle at the end of the year, this and the Factor would be like, man, hand in hand, right? I love the Factor because of the magnet thing, but this is just, I think it's on another level because of the custom nature of it, right? And both are sporting unique locks and systems and stuff like that. So anyway, let's get into it. Aesthetically, it's gorgeous, in my opinion. You have this milling pattern one. On this one, I asked for DLC on the screws, so I got DLC. And then you have this beautiful clip that just matches right in with the milling pattern. I mean, it's stunning, honestly. And you have this pad underneath, landing pad underneath, which is cool. Again, you have the number, and you have 154, number 8, 154. You have your button. That's for your lock, of course. Let's see if I can, there you go. There's your pivot collar. Up here, we have the flipper tab that has jimping right there. You have the blade. This is not actually a front flipper, but it works as such. So there's some jimping there, but it's not super aggressive. You also have the blade, which is dead nuts centered. Craig Brown is an absolute beast, and yeah, they're always dead nuts centered. They're always perfect. The dude's like an aerospace engineer who makes knives. Like, that's just the kind of passion that some people have, you know. It's rare that you get a product this good, and it's because dudes who can do machining like this and stuff like this can make more money doing it in aerospace or whatever, right? So that's why you don't have all these crazy US OEMs, because the people who can do that are making more money doing something else. This isn't China, where they have an excess of people. They have an excess of engineers. I heard that in China, they have the same number of people that graduate from engineering school every year than we have engineers all together. So they need to put that talent to use. And that's why areas like OEMing knives and stuff like that are available over there. Does that make sense? And I've said this before. If we wanted high-end staplers, they would make those for us. If that would sell, that's what they would do, because they're in it to make money. They're not in it because they have a passion for knives. Now, that's not always true, right? But it's the majority of the case. So, anyway, I have no idea what I was getting at when I said that. That was me talking about the centering. Just took 3 minutes of blathering. Okay, it's centered. One thing I want to note that looks cool is down here to the tip. It kind of looks like an arrow. I don't know if you see it. Kind of looks like an arrow or like a thing on a clock, a hand on a clock. It's pretty cool. On this side, you have the logo, Craig Brown logo, another pivot collar, the second screw. Interestingly enough, T10 down here, T8 up here. I would totally think those would be the opposite, but hey, what are you going to do? Then when you open the knife, you have this gorgeous drop point blade, beautiful fuller, blood groove, all the way to the end there. You have this belt satin, and it's a hand ground hollow grind. Super thin, just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if you can hear it. It's crazy. This is sporting a Jared Neve edge. I loaned it to him, and he put an edge on it. He did say the stock grind, because it's hand done, was a little bit uneven, but he said it's really good now that he, I don't know, he did something. I guess he sharpened it. You have a button lock, essentially. It's called the Brown Lock, honestly. And it's sort of like a smock where it has a compression lock type thing and a button, right? It's not a normal plunge lock. But it's called the Brown Lock because it's different. You'll see there's a lock bar into the frame there. I don't know if I can show you. And I've done a disassembly, so you feel free to go watch that. You'll see a little bit better. But lock bar is in the frame here, screwed in right there with two T10s. And then you push on this tab, it pushes that lock bar down, and it swings out of the way. And it locks up down in there, and it's very solid. Now, if you rock it really hard, not even that hard, if you just rock it a little bit, you'll feel a little bit of movement, but it's not lock rock. It's just literally that flexing a little bit, because it's just that little lock bar in there. Trust me, I've spine whacked it, I've tested it, it's fucking solid. You push the button, she swings down. Now, there's actually two knobs under there on the inside, obviously, and they ride on half moons, basically, on the blade. And one of those controls your detent strength, and one of those controls your lockup. So it's kind of like a Grimsmo product where they have the different stop pins, and they can swap those out to change, lockup and detent. But in this case, it's on a set screw, so you can actually adjust the detent by changing that set screw, and you can make it stronger or weaker. It's very interesting, very cool. It came set perfectly, in my opinion, so I did not mess with it at all. I will say the detent is a little stout. I did have to get used to it, or maybe it broke in. But you'll see there, when I pull down, it freaking guns out. I've slipped off plenty of times. But because of also having a fuller and a front flipper type thing, it's actually set perfectly. It flicks extremely well. Because you're a little farther away from the pivot than you are up here, you're going to get probably the strongest detent. Down here, perfect. It just is money. Can I feel it? Nope. And then you have sort of a front flipper tab right there. Again, not advertised as such, but it works really well. I do wish he would adjust the jimping up here to be more aggressive and actually be a front flipper, but it's definitely still fun to do. Okay, so we talked about aesthetics. It's fucking gorgeous. It really is. Yeah, it's a little bit tall, and it's fucking long. Like, this thing is huge. It's got to be over 9 inches. So, for example, here's the Grimsmo Rask, which I would call a full-size knife. It's 3.5-inch blade. It freaking dwarfs it. I mean, it's freaking huge. So, you have, I believe, a 4-inch blade on this thing. Now, that includes the choil. So, here's a knife bigger than it, for once. Satu Dave let me check out his Satu, and you'll see it dwarfs it. So it's not enormous, right? It's smaller than a Gungnir. It's, so it's probably 3 3/4 to 4-inch blade. My guess is 4-inch overall, but you have this choil built in, right? So you're probably getting more like 3.75 from here to the tip. So she said. So yeah, I'd love a smaller version, I think. A 3.5-inch blade version would be perfect in my opinion. But I don't know everything that would change, right? He doesn't normally make these massive knives, so I wonder if he did it this size for a reason. Because of how the lock integrates, because of how the deployments work, maybe it needed to be big, you know? I don't know. But with all that said, does it bother me that it's this big? No, I fucking love it. Like, it's still one of my favorite knives. And it does not bother me. It carries like a smaller knife. It's not super heavy or anything. And it functions extremely well. So it doesn't really matter. Now, you know, when you're cutting, yeah, you got a lot of knife here, right? And trying to do a pinch grip and climb up and do, you know, that kind of stuff is not super fun with this. So that's the drawback, is obviously, again, the size and trying to do shipping labels and stuff. It's very difficult. So I tend to grab something else because I usually carry 2 knives. So I might, you know, take this out and be like, you know, I don't think I'm going to do that. And then I'll just grab, you know, the baby Barlow. I'll carry these 2, right? Perfect. They match. I mean, everything's well in the world. Spoiler alert on the review. This thing is just bananas good. Speaking of pinch grip, cutting shipping labels, it's just not having a handle bopping you in the wrist is just so good. You can maneuver like a champ with this thing. And it's got action like a much larger knife. That thing is incredible. So you got Baby Barlow and you got the FSD here. Yeah, so ergonomics. This grip, super comfortable in hand. Choked up grip, unbelievably comfortable in hand. Now, I've heard some people give complaints saying that they have disengaged the lock when using it. So actually, I loaned this out to Jared and Eve. I loaned it out to Satu Dave, and I loaned it out to Scotch and Things. Shout out to all you guys. And before I shipped it to Steve over at Scotch and Things, he asked me about that. He's like, "Can you disengage it?" Like, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll try." And I went like this, nothing. I choked up, nothing. Right. But in this in-between grip, I was like, yeah, I can kind of hit the lock, and I was able to kind of, like, you know, in a normal grip, maybe you could call that a normal grip. I don't know. I was kind of doing this, and then, you know, so yeah, I feel like you're trying to do it at that point. But not everybody's hand is like my hand. If you have a bigger hand, maybe when you're in the choil, somehow you're putting enough meat down that you're hitting that and disengaging it, right? Because Jared was saying that he would do draw cuts, I think, whatever, through cardboard, like these long push through cardboard, and he would pop it and it would disengage. I've just never had that happen, and luckily, I'm left-handed. So I hold it like this, nothing. I hold it like this, nothing. Hold it like this, nothing. Like, I just don't disengage this knife. Maybe if I, again, really tried. But I don't ever hold a knife here. Like, I have a choil. Why wouldn't I use it? I have a back grip. Why would I ever be in the middle? And if I'm in the middle, I'm probably doing this, where I'm kind of like, you know, doing this stuff because I'm at a Friday night gas station fight. So, never once had issues with the lock where it is. And that's the coolest thing about this knife for me, is it's basically a lefty button lock. It's meant to be a right-handed lock. The reason he put it there, in his explanation, was he thought a button lock, he didn't like to, first off, with Craig Brown, he doesn't know other stuff. He'd never even heard of the compression lock. When somebody was like, dude, that looks a lot like a compression lock, he's like, what's that? And then he looked it up. And his lock operates differently than compression lock. Compression lock utilizes the stop pin or whatever for lockup or something, and this utilizes the frame. I don't know, something like that. But he thought that you could disengage the lock in your pocket. Sorry, engage the lock in your pocket and have it open on you if the button was on this side. Because you're right-handed, it's going in this way. You might push that button. So he kept it away from your thigh. That was his reason for putting the lock over here. Which is cool for me because lefty button lock. I love it. So that's very interesting because there's no way to flip the clip. He was not thinking about lefties, trust me. So, yeah, a little bit of tidbit for you. All right, so yeah, ergos are good. I really like the ergos. I mean, you get a lot of knife here. It's very comfortable. There's nothing really hot spotty. This clip is so down and just like perfect, and it looks like it wouldn't work, right? You're like, yeah, that clip's going to be tight. I mean, that thing's going to be hard to get in your pocket. This is the best clip I've ever used. Hands down. It goes in your pocket so well. It carries so well. It has that flat, so it just slides in, but it has great tension. I mean, it's literally the best clip ever. I carry it in the back left pocket, just like this. And it's perfect. So anyway, that's that. Ergos, cutting. So I haven't done a ton of cutting with this just because I loaned it out pretty quick. And again, I don't use my knives like crazy. But I will say the factory edge didn't feel super sharp, or I don't know what was going on. But ever since I got it back from Jared, it's perfect. I mean, it's super sharp, cuts through paper really well because that's all I've done is just test the edge on paper. If I'm carrying this knife, and again, I have the baby Barlow on me, I'm probably going to just take the baby Barlow out and cut open the package or whatever and use that. Like, why utilize my sort of custom knife and you know, then have to clean this blade off and all this shit when I could just literally use another knife? That's my thinking on it. Now, if I don't have something else, yeah, I'm going to use this, right? I haven't really had the opportunity. Plus, I'll be honest, I haven't really carried this since I got it back. Been home for a week since Blade Show. I brought it home with me from Blade Show. I've been reviewing other knives, so I just haven't, you know, carried. I've owned this for like 2 months. That's why I'm doing the review. And I carried it a ton when I first got it. I mean, I literally carried it for like 2 weeks straight, which is very abnormal for me, guys. I am on to the next really fast. But this one really stuck with me because I love it. So anyway, that's cutting. And carry, I guess we can talk about. It's fantastic. That's what I was saying. Not really heavy. It is long, and it's a little bit wide. So, yeah, you're going to notice it, but it's not obnoxious, right? It doesn't quite get to obnoxious, but it's close. I will give it that. Sounds are phenomenal. I mean, need I say more? It's one of the best sounding knives ever. And I will tell you what, acoustics are starting to climb on my list of things. Like, if a knife has great acoustics, I think it helps its case a lot, in my eyes. I'm realizing I'm very into acoustics, and I've noticed that with the fidget stuff. Like, it has to have a good click, clack, whatever for me to really love it, where something like a spinner is a little less satisfying to me because of that. It doesn't have sound. This, you know, amazing. So let's talk about action and fidget factor. It's off the wall. It's one of, if not the best fidget knife on the planet. I had this in my hands for like 3 or 4 hours on the trip back from Blade Show in the car, and man, was I just going ham on her. You know, you have the flipper tab you can hit, and then you have the reverse flick, which is the best deployment you can get on this thing. You just, man, that freaking fuller is so good. It's got that sharp edge, but not too sharp. And oh my God, the detent is just dialed in. It is snappy as all get out. And that's what makes it great, is that it has that snappy detent. If this was a light detent, it would not be satisfying to flick. It would just flop out, and then, you know, but it does, and it's just, so good. And then occasionally I throw the flipper in, right? And then on the off occasion, I throw the front flipper in. And I always give it a little wrist, just kind of how I learned to do it. And you'll see there I'll miss it occasionally because it's really not meant for that. Jimping's not super aggressive like this jimping. And I'll even miss that flipper sometimes. Does that ever bug me? Nope. The detent's just that good. I'd take that trade-off any day. So closing action is bananas, drop shut. I have this on skiff bearings. It does take, ironically, it takes 3/16, 1/16 bearings. It's ironic because they're tiny, you know, for a big-ass knife. Seems off. I just assumed 1/4 inches would be in there, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, with that, there's no side to side. Again, a little bit of up and down, but that's just the flex. No big deal. Oh, you can, the way he set it up, you can disengage, and then, like right there, I disengage, it's past the lock, and now it's more of a shake. It's super smooth, but it's not going to just free fall, right? You're going to have to shake it a little bit. And again, his reasoning for that was if it opens in your pocket or something, he thought it'd be better if it didn't just, like, open all the way on you. It would kind of get stuck, and you'd have to shake it out to get it to hurt you or whatever. I don't know. Again, neither of those reasons, the button thing or that, make much sense to me, because if the button were on the other side, like a normal right-handed button lock, even if your thigh depressed it, the blade is against your seam if you're not an idiot. If you don't carry your knife like an idiot, the blade is here. So even if it opened, it's going to be very hard, even if you depress that, for it to open in your pocket. So I don't know if he carries knives like in his left front pocket with a righty clip, because then it makes more sense. But I don't know. It seemed odd. Yeah, I think that's it. I've rambled for 22 minutes on a knife I may have already reviewed. I wasn't sure, and I wanted to talk about this knife again. This is a home run. This is by far one of the best knives ever. It is currently my favorite knife this year. It's going to be hard to beat, and it's just a beautiful example of what somebody with massive brain potential, much more than I have, can do when you put them in the knife world, if that makes sense. If you check out Craig's other work, it's all the same, man. It's all just like extremely thought out, extremely beautiful, extremely well engineered knives. I mean, the Cortex is so good. I have another one coming. I think it's called the Servo to check out from somebody. I've checked out the LHCX. Like, they're just all amazing knives and amazing builds. And they're not stupid expensive for what you get. I mean, this was $800, I think. So, yeah, it's a lot of money, but for what you get, I mean, that's Rosie money. I would put this up against the Rosie. I mean, if you look at build quality and everything, this is probably better. I love the Rosie, guys. It's one of my favorite knives, but just the way this thing is made and the milling and all of it, like, I don't know. I was like, 800, sweet, here you go. You know, no big deal. It's worth every penny, and the detent, the action, it's just so up my alley that I think that's part of it, right, guys? This is a knife for me. So that's it. Can't give it any more praise. It's amazing. Get one if you can. If you can't, try harder. No, I'm just kidding. Keep an eye out. I know he was doing custom builds this month, so that's cool. If you can get a spot for that. He does drops on Fridays. I don't know if he's still doing that this month, but either way, they're going to become more available. You can get them on the secondary. Right now, they're going for like $1,200, which is a lot, but even at $1,200, it's well worth the money. I mean, it's an easy buy, guys. Unless you just absolutely can't handle a large knife like this, you know, I get it if you can't. If it's just too big. I've had people get one and be like, yeah, it's just too big. Fine, you know. This is too big for me, but I don't give a fuck. It's that good that it just does not matter how big it is. It's still within the limits of what I can carry and use and be happy with. And because of everything else about it, it's perfect. So, yeah, when he comes out with the FSDS, you know, the small or whatever, and it's a 3 1/4, 3.5 inch, I'm probably going to like that better overall. We'll see if he does it. I'm not saying he will. But it just doesn't matter. It's so good. Probably 2022 knife of the year, hands down, probably, honestly. Again, unless production counts, then maybe the factor is in there. It's going to be a hell of a battle. But I think those two guys, man, I'd love to get those two guys in a room just talking knives. That would, I mean, it would be way over my head. My fucking mind would explode, but it would be awesome. So, I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will catch you later.